I have a particular perspective on voting. As an African American, I have a particular perspective on voting. The rights for African Americans, for that matter, for even women to vote, wasn't done so easily. It was done so with people getting hit, beaten, with things like poll taxes, to try to constrain the ability of individuals to express their will and to make a choice on who they want to govern and rule their society. This is supposedly a peaceful demonstration, but I find election days to be I love election days. They are a glorious expression of public sentiment and public will. There are various forces, Republican Party, that tries to stymie this, either through voter registration, voter ID laws, moving of polling places. And mind you, the Democratic Party did the same thing during the primaries, but the Republican Party has taken it to a fine science in suppressing the vote, even with these laws that prevent felons or people who were in the criminal justice system at one point but served their time for getting their voting rights back. All that being said, whatever the hurdles that are placed in front of you, whether it's long lines, whether it's the difficulty of getting to a polling location, whether it's the difficulty of getting to a voter ID, all of these things are put in place to make it difficult for you to vote. And if no other reason than to express your public will and giving them, gonna vote, goddammit. Vote! Particularly, if it's someone you honestly believes represents your interests. My rule is vote for the person that represents your interests. Full stop. From the standpoint of the left, that means lefties, or at the very least, yeah, that means lefties. So Ojeda would get my vote. What's the other one? Jess King would get my vote. Even Gillum and Beto. It's not so much that I believe the latter two are flaming lefties and that they are what they say they are. It's the people who they're replacing, in this case, are god-awful. And at the very least, they are going to be stuck in a structure in the way that they ran that campaign. And by the way, if they don't live up to what they said in that campaign, they should fail the next time around. I don't care who is running against them. The Satan himself could be running against Beto the next time around if he's not living up to what he ran in that campaign. And he should fail completely, utterly. But the race that he's running against Ted Cruz, to some degree he is running against the devil himself, in which case I want Beto to win. I guess my point is, if you find that there is no one who represents your interests and you choose not to vote, that is a vote. That's not you doing it just because you're lazy. That is a vote in and of itself. It is up for the people themselves to come out and get your vote. It is the fault of the candidate if the candidate loses. So don't misunderstand me on this. I don't want you to vote for any random hack. And the vote blue no matter who thing is nonsense. But if there's a Green Party member, if you can write in a vote, even if the write-in is a provisional ballot, that's a vote. I guess I'm saying express your will and the civic duty when you go out for these people. Voting in many of these places have jumped, early voting, by hundreds of percent. In Texas, I think it's 500% increase in the number of people who are voting. I saw in other states where it was like 200, 300%. People are motivated. The question is, motivated for who? I laughed at HA when he's talking about the Republicans are going to do awesome in these elections. Nonsense. That's nonsense. But I could be wrong. Perhaps I'll be eating crow later on. But I love the fact that we get the chance to do so. I wish that we didn't make it so difficult for people to vote in this country. I wish that we would invest more resources into preventing longer lines. I wish that we would go easy like Oregon did and just say, look, everybody has the potential to vote. If you're an American citizen, congratulations, it's your God-given right. I wish those things. But that's not where we are. And I resent this thing of people doing what they can to game the system. My point here is, if there's someone that represents your interests, go vote. I'm going to be on Fault Lines this morning. In fact, I'm going to be on, they're going to call me in probably 12 minutes at 7:20 Eastern. So definitely check me out on Fault Lines. Also, I want to give a shout out to Bob Ramirza and Wesley Walker. I've been waging a campaign to save Sam Cedar's abused work wife. And in doing so, Wesley Walker gave 40 and Bob Ramirza gave 20. Roy Scott, Cleta Klein, Justin Essen, Danny Knapp, all of this money goes towards Center Against Domestic Abuse. My goal is $1,000, and I want to make that goal, and I want to give that money to that Center for Domestic Abuse. So please help me save Sam Cedar's abused work wife. Michael Brooks. That's him holding his head from a boo-boo. This man is a maniac. Again, everything goes with Center Against Domestic Abuse. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support through PayPal or Patreon. And yes, go vote. There are other aspects of the democratic system that matters just as much as voting. Voting is just that endpoint expression of everything that was done up until this point. Meaning all of the people who are, all of the lies, all of the cajoling, all of the expansive rhetoric, all of the promises, all of those things get boiled down into this one specific moment of community where the country itself comes together and determines what it wants. Ideally, assuming that what it wants is actually on the ballot. But in the case that it is, go vote for that person. Thanks all. By the way, voting for the person is not the end of it, but it is the start. Thanks all. I'll be on Fault Lines like in 9 minutes. Have a good one.